Welcome to the Marley Bird YouTube channel, brought to you by Red Heart Yarns. In this video, we are going to learn section 1 of the fall crochet along for the Abstractly Chic shawl. This shawl is a beautiful shawl that has a lot of teaching points in it. It uses simple stitches and unique construction to get this really cool shawl shape. You are going to learn a lot of really great techniques that you can add to your crocheter's toolbox as we work along together to make this really great shawl. Now, I designed this shawl to be 3 colors of my very own yarn, Red Heart Chic Sheep by Marley Bird, but you can also make it in just one solid color across the entire shawl and have a different color for the cable section down the center should you choose. If you do that, the yarn requirement amounts are a little bit different. You would need 5 balls for the body and then 1 ball as the alternate color. But if you're making the shawl with the 3 suggested colors, you would need 3 balls of your main color and then 1 ball each of the 2 alternative colors, okay? Just to put that out there for a little bit. Now, all of the instructions and the materials and everything you need for this pattern is available for free over on the Marley Bird website. I will put a link in the video description box right down there below. You guys know the drill. While you're down there, please smash that like button, as my kids say, to let me know that you're going to participate in this crochet along with me. I really hope that you will. Now, if this is the first crochet along you have participated in here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel, welcome. We are so glad you're here. I know many of the followers of the channel look forward to the crochet alongs and the knit alongs here on the channel, and the reason is because the community that we create and the fun items we're able to make together, it's just a lot of fun. Now, the community I spoke about, that is the Facebook group that is dedicated solely to this crochet along. The link to that Facebook group is in the video description box below as well. It is also on the Marley Bird website pattern, so that way you can find it there. But if you join us in the Facebook group, that is where you're able to ask questions, post pictures, give encouragement to others who might be struggling. It's a lot of fun over there in that group. We also give away prizes. So if you would like to be a part of that group, please join us over there on the Facebook page. The Facebook group. Now, do you have to be a part of that Facebook group to participate? Absolutely not. You can participate, and we do want to see your pictures. So if you post it on Instagram or on Facebook or wherever it may be, if you use hashtag MarleyBirdCAL, that will help us be able to find your work, which would be fantastic. I would love to be able to see your works in progress. Now, these crochet alongs, I try and keep them rather simple as far as the instructions go in the videos. When I release a video each week for that pattern section, I will go over any special stitches that need to be taught, any special instructions that need to be addressed, or any tips and tricks that I might have to help you make sure that you get the correct set of instructions. After you watch the video, you're then set off to hopefully complete that week's set of instructions, so that way when the following week's video comes out, you're ready to go and jump into that part as well. If you fall behind, that's totally okay. These videos are up here forever. The Facebook group is up there for as long as Facebook lets us have a Facebook group. So you can always find help, and there's always these videos there to help you. So don't get discouraged. Just hang out there. I know that life gets in the way sometimes. Just know we're here ready for you whenever you're ready to work along with us. Now, if you're excited and ready to jump in with me, all I need you to do is go ahead and grab your yarn, grab your hook. Now, I know that the pattern calls for a size H. If you want to grab a couple different hook sizes, so that way you can make sure you get the correct gauge, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Or if you just want to follow along with me here at the beginning and then attempt other hook sizes if you need to later on, that's fine. Get the pattern, grab your materials, and let's go ahead and get started with this 2018 crochet along. I'm so excited that it's crochet along season and all of you are here getting ready to get started with me. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first section of the shawl we're going to begin with is the right side. And I don't mean that as in the right side, wrong side. I mean the right side of the shawl. It's to the right of the center cable pattern. And you'll notice here, this is one that I had made up using neutral shades. And the reason I brought this over is because I wanted to show you it up against the other one I made with the much more brighter shades of color. These two shawls are made identical, and the reason they're made identical is one, my crocheter did follow along with the pattern, but she also made sure to get the same gauge measurement. Many of you may have never done a gauge swatch or even worried about gauge before, and that's totally okay. And one of the great things about this shawl is that gauge isn't really super duper important. You can be a little bit bigger than the suggested amount. Just know that if you are a little bit larger, it will require a little bit more yarn. And of course your shawl will be a little bit bigger, but I want to show you how to do your gauge swatch simply by jumping in and getting started with the pattern. And I'm going to measure out what your measurement should be once we get past this first little section of double crochets, so you can kind of see if you're on the right track. Hopefully that will help you out as we go along, okay? Now I did say double crochets. That's because I use double crochets throughout this entire side of the pattern. We just use them in different ways. Down here at the start, we are going to use double crochets just back and forth. But then I change it up here and I do a V-stitch where I do a double crochet, V-stitch, and I have them separated out. And you'll notice, hopefully it's kind of dark. Let's look at this one. If you notice here, my double crochet V-stitch right there is in between the double crochet V-stitches of the row below. And so I want to talk to you about how that is done right there. As we make this side of the shawl, we start down here at the bottom. We're going to keep this edge of the shawl nice and straight, but we will be increasing this edge of the shawl to get this nice angle, okay? So as you're making this piece, we're going to have this edge straight and this edge is always going to be increasing. You'll also notice, I can bring this one back down, that I kept with the same color all the way up to this point. I changed colors to color C, and then I went to color A. So this starts off with color B. We start off with color B, go to color C, then go to color A. Color A is the one that you have the most yarn amount of, because color A is then used for the center panel, and then it's used for a majority of the left side panel as well, okay? So just so that we're all clear here, at the very start, you are going to begin with your color B, okay? Your color B. Now we are just going to use double crochets, and we're going to start off here working our increases. So let's get through this first little section right here. If I move this up, this little section right here, this is just double crochets. And at the end of this section, this little tiny bit, it should be about 4 inches wide, okay? So this is the edge of my section. This is the other edge of my section. It should be about 4 inches wide, okay? Does that make sense? So if yours is not 4 inches wide, we want to either go up a hook size or go down a hook size. Or if you're like, you know what, I like the fabric I'm getting, I'm going to stick with this, you absolutely can. It's your choice. But this is what we're going to do here to start for this particular shawl, okay? So let's go ahead and jump in. I am going to use this color for this example, but I already have it all out right here, so that way I didn't have to mess with it. And we're going to begin with a slip knot to begin. So go ahead and put a slip knot directly onto your hook. I'm starting off with an H hook. You can as well if you want to go up or down a hook size, because you know that you have a tendency to be tighter or looser. I will leave that up to you. We begin by chaining 4 stitches, 3, 4. Then we want to put 4 double crochet into that very first chain we started with. So I yarn over my hook, come all the way over here to this first chain, and I'm going into it, okay? So I am going into where I have 2 loops on my chain. It really doesn't matter what you decide, how you decide to go through your chain, whether it's just through the back loop or just through the front loop or through 2 loops, whatever works for you. I do want you to make sure that you get 4 double crochets into that one stitch, okay? So let's get our 4 double crochets into there. Let's make sure. So here's my initial chain 3 that I skipped. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 double crochets plus this chain 3. This chain 3 counts as a double crochet, okay? That's very important. That means I have 5 double crochets at this point. I now will turn my work and chain 3. Once I do that chain 3, which counts as a double crochet, I will put 2 double crochet into this first stitch right here, okay? So I'm not skipping, I'm putting 2 into that first stitch. So 1 and 2. All right, so now I have a total of 3 right there at that very edge. Now I'm going to place a double crochet into each stitch all the way to the end. Now wait a minute, this is where some of you might be like, okay, am I to the end or am I not to the end? Well, we know this chain 3 counts as a double crochet, so that means we have to work into it, okay? So all the way down here, I'm going to make sure I go into that last chain. I like to work into that last turning chain there, and I will place a double crochet right there. Now, if I were to set this down, I know that this edge right here, this is my straight edge. This is my edge that's going to be increasing. So if I wanted to, I could at this point, if I wanted to have some visuals, if I want to take a marker and just place it over here at this edge, I can. And that could let me know, okay, Marley, every time I'm over here, I'm going to make sure I'm doing an increase, okay? Just to give myself an idea of where I am in the pattern. Once I've completed that row, which is row 1, I go ahead and turn my work and I go on to row 2. So I chain 3. I will put a double crochet into the next double crochet. Now this is important. This chain 3 counts as a double crochet. So I do not want to put one right there, okay? Because that chain 3 counts as that double crochet into that space. So I will put my first double crochet into that space. So I'll put a double there, a double into the next, so on and so forth, all the way down to the turning chain. When I get to the turning chain, that's this chain 3 right here, I will place 3 double crochets into that third chain of the turning chain. So I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3. All of that went into the actual chain, okay? I didn't go into the space. I went into the actual chain. And again, that's my edge that I want my increase on, so that makes sense that I would put 3 into one stitch down there. I go ahead, turn my work. Now I'm on row 3, which is a repeat of row 1. So I chain 3, yarn over my hook, do 2 double crochets into the first stitch here. Okay, because that's my increase, right? Increase, increase, increase. And then I go ahead and just work a flat row of double crochets all the way down. So this is row 3. And then row 4 is just a repeat of row 2. Don't forget to put that last double crochet into that turning chain, okay, guys? Don't want to forget that. So that's row 3. Row 4, I turn my work, I chain 3. I skip this first one, go into the next one, and I'll do double crochets all the way down this row until I get to the turning chain, where I will put 3 double crochets into the third chain of that turning chain. Okay, so I put 3 double crochets into the 3rd chain of that turning chain. That was row 4. Go ahead and turn my work, and I do one more row 1 for my row 5. So I chain 3 and then do 2 double crochets into this first stitch here, and then just double crochets all the way down the row. When I get to the end of this row 5, I am done with this little part, okay? So that's the end of just my double crochet part. So I can set this down, and at this point, I want my work to be about 4 inches wide. So as I take a look here, see how I'm 4 inches wide? That is perfect. That lets me know that I am right on par, okay? Now, if yours is less than 4 inches wide, what I need you to do is go up a hook size. I need your stitches to be a little bit bigger. If yours is more than 4 inches wide, you need to go down a hook size. Yours needs to be a little bit smaller. If yours is however big it is and you're like, you know what, I really like the way this looks, then stick with that and keep going. Just know that you might need a little bit more yarn, okay? So I know that this is not the traditional way of doing a gauge swatch, but because this is a shawl and because I don't want you to waste a whole lot of extra time doing stitches that you're just not going to use, I think this is a really good way to jump in and get started with this shawl. So at this point, if your piece is not 4 inches wide, that's where I want you to make adjustments, okay? If you're good to go, let's go ahead and continue on with the next part of this section, which is the V-stitch. Now, on this lower V-stitch section, we go ahead and turn our work. And it is row 6, so we start off with the chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Remember, that counts as a stitch. That counts as the stitch that would be right there. Now the instructions say to skip 1 double crochet and put a V-stitch in the next double crochet. So for this pattern, a V-stitch is a double crochet, so I'm putting a double crochet there, a chain 1, and a double crochet, all into the same stitch. So I have a double, my chain 3 right here, which counts as a double, and that counts as that stitch right there. Then I skip 1 double crochet, put a V-stitch in the next one. Now you'll notice in the pattern, before we did the skip 1 double crochet, there was a star there. And now we've hit a point in the pattern where it says repeat from star. So we go back to where that star is in the pattern, and we repeat that all the way down to the last 2 stitches of this row. So the star indicates that we skip 1 double crochet and put a V-stitch in the next double crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I skip 1, V-stitch in the next one. 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 And that puts me down to the last 2 stitches of the row. Okay, so here's a stitch, and then remember the last stitch is that 3rd chain of my turning chain. So I will skip this double crochet, and in the 3rd chain of my turning chain, I will place 3 double crochet. So at the end of this row, this is what I have so far, okay? So I have my chain 3, and that counts as that stitch. I skipped one, did a V-stitch, skip one 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 V-stitch, skip one, 3 double crochets. I should have 6 V-stitches and then the 3 double crochets plus the one down here. Whew. All right, so that is the start of my lower V-stitch section. Now, as we work all the V-stitches in this section continuing on, we will actually be placing them between the V-stitches from the previous row. Let me show you what I mean. I can go ahead and pick up this work and give it a nice turn. And I start off with the chain 3, just like always. And I'll place 2 double crochets right here in this first double crochet. So there's 1 and 2, keeping my increase, okay? It keeps my nice increase edge right there, okay? Now that I've worked my increase, I go ahead and continue on working my V-stitches between the V-stitches of the previous row. So what I'm going to do is you'll notice that there's a V-stitch of the previous row right there. And in this space, that big space right there between that V-stitch and this last set of 3 double crochets, I will place a V-stitch. So let's do a double, a chain 1, and a double. And I'm putting it right there in that big space. Now I'm going to skip over this double, this chain 1, this double that make up that V-stitch. Come over here to this space, that space right there, and place another V-stitch. So you'll notice we aren't working into an actual stitch. We're literally just working into this space between the V-stitches of the previous row. Okay? So there's a V-stitch and here's a V-stitch. I'm going to go into this big space. I'm placing my V-stitch right there. When I get to the end here where I have the V-stitch and then 1 double crochet, the chain 3 turning chain, I go ahead and I place my V-stitch in that space between those 2 stitches. So instead of working into the actual chains there, I'm going to go into this big space and I am just going to do my V-stitch into that space. See how that works? Okay, so at the end of this row, I should have 7 V-stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now that you've finished row 7, let's work row 8, and then the rest of this section is just a repeat of row 7 and 8. Go ahead and pick up your work and give it a turn. Row 8 has us begin with the chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And we will V-stitch in the space between these 2 V-stitches. So we jump in right here with a V-stitch, okay? Really simple. I'm still working in the space between. And I'm going to do that all the way down this row until I get to the end of the row where I have to work my increase to maintain my increase edge, okay? At the end of this row, all we want to do is we want to put 3 double crochet into the 3rd chain of our turning chain right there at the end of the previous row. Okay, so we're going to put 3 double crochets into the actual turning chain. And that's our increase down there, okay? So that's why we want to make sure we do our 3. We put that down. I can set this down. At the end of this row, I have 7 V-stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have my initial chain 3, which counts as a double crochet, and I have my 3 double crochets here at the end. To finish off the lower V-stitch section, you go ahead and repeat rows 7 and 8 through row 17. On row 18, that's where we will begin the post stitch section, and that's the center of our right side. As you take a look down here, you can see this is the double crochet bit, this is the V-stitch section I just showed you, and this is the post stitch section I'm referencing to. If I move this, you can see in the other shade, this is where this goes the sunset color, and then it jumps into this post stitch. And it gives a really cool texture to the actual shawl. We will continue to maintain our increases over here and this edge nice and straight. We're just changing the stitches. Now, as we move on to this section, I really feel like it's important I show you how to work these actual post stitches, and I think it's important to show you how to change yarn colors, because it's in the middle of this particular post stitch section of the right side that you will be changing colors from color B to color C, working several rows, and then changing to color A and finishing off the post stitch and then working back into a V-stitch section. Okay, that's the upper V-stitch, which means the only thing that you really have left to learn for this week's lesson is how to do post stitches and how to change colors. So in interest of not making this video super long, I'm going to show you how to do both of those things on this little swatch that we've worked up together, so that way you can see how it's done. And then I'm going to let you go on and finish off the right side of your work for this week's set of instructions. Okay, so let's learn how to do the post stitch section. I'm going to go ahead, I'm pulling this down, and I'm going to pretend that I am on row 18. So I will go ahead and turn my work, and I start off with a chain 3, which is my double crochet, just like we've been counting it all along. And then the instructions say that I want to double crochet in this chain 1 space, and then double crochet in the next 2 double crochet. What you're noticing right now is that we are just doing a solid row of double crochets, okay? Now there's a chain 1 space, and we'll double crochet in that space because we are repeating from star. And if you look in the instructions to where the star is, it's at the point where it says to double crochet into that chain 1 space. So I will go ahead and continue following the pattern all the way to the end of the row, where I will finish off with my increase of 3 double crochets into the top of the turning chain. This will leave me with a total of 41 double crochets, just plain old double crochets that we can then build our post stitches on, okay? I want to make sure I finish off with my 3 double crochets in the top of my turning chain. And once I've done that, I will have a full row of just plain double crochets. So I've completely transitioned out of the V-stitch area. So I can go ahead and turn my work. I will chain 3, and I will put 2 double crochets right here into this first double crochet, because this is my increase edge. Okay, I tried to keep everything really simple here. Now I go ahead and I continue on in pattern. This is where we are going to introduce front post double crochets and back post double crochets. And it's very important that you alternate these 2 stitches going down the row. For row 19, we start off with a front post double crochet, which means we're going to place our double crochet around that post. So you yarn over our hook, and going from the front around the back of that post and out the other side, you will put your hook. Now I yarn over my hook, pull that back through, so I bring my hook back through that same direction that I went in, and I have 3 loops on my hook, so I'm ready to do my double crochet. That's a front post double crochet. The next stitch will be a back post double crochet. So here's the stitch I want to work with. I've yarned over my hook, coming from the behind my work. I'm going to go up this side, over top of that stitch, go out the other side. Okay, you see that? yarn over my hook, have my hook go back that same path and up. So now I have 3 loops on my hook, and I go ahead and finish my double crochet. The next one will be a front post, so I go in through the front, around the back of that post and out the other side, yarn over, have my hook go back that same path, pull up, and complete my double crochet. Alternate with the back post, so I'm behind my work, come from the back over top of that post, go to the other side, yarn over, have my hook follow that same path back, pull up, and complete my double crochet. As you're working along, you're going to notice it looks like as you do these front post ones, see how those post stitches are pulling towards the front, and the back post ones are pulling towards the back. You'll work these stitches all the way down this row, and you will double crochet into the top of this turning chain right here, okay? So alternate front post and back post double crochets all the way down this row. You'll end with a front post double crochet, and then we will put just a regular double crochet right there into the 3rd chain of that turning chain, okay, the top of that turning chain. We want to make sure we place that stitch there. So as I set this down, we have a really cool look happening here. Now on the next row, we are still going to do front post and back post double crochets, but we are going to alternate them as opposed to what the stitch was prior. So if we come to a back post double crochet, we're going to work a front post. If we come to a front post, we're going to work a back post. Let me show you what I mean. Go ahead and pick up your work and give it a turn. Chain 3 counts as a double crochet. So that counts as this stitch right here. So I'm not going to use that. So here is the first stitch right here, and it's a back post. As I'm looking at it, see how it looks like it's pulled to the back? So if it is looking like it's pulled to the back as I'm looking at it, I want to do a front post in that stitch. All right, so I'm going to do a front post. In the next one, see how that looks like a front post as I'm looking at it? That means that I want to make it a back post, or make the one I'm creating a back post. So I do it just like I did before. I'm just working over these stitches that are already front and backs. If I were to put a back on top of a back or a front on top of a front, I would get ribbing. I don't want ribbing. I want this really cool sort of seed look. So you just alternate from between front post and back post. You do the opposite of whatever you are looking at. All the way down, okay? All the way down. Now, as you get down here to the last 3 double crochets, those are our increases, right? You go ahead and place a back post double crochet in the first one. Okay, so now we're down to 2 stitches here. We put a front post into that next one. And then we're going to place 3 double crochets into the top of that turning chain. Just regular old double crochets, okay? Because that's our increase edge, and we want to make sure we maintain that edge. Now, as I complete this double crochet and set this down, you can see that I'm getting this really cool sort of textured look. It's the same look that is happening right here on this piece. You can really see it here with the linen color. See how they alternate? Now, at the end of row 23, you actually stop using your color B and you transition to color C. Obviously, I'm not to the end of row 23, but I do want to show you how you change colors because it's really super easy, and this is how you will change colors throughout the entire project. Right here at the end of my row, I just finished with the double crochet. So what I'm going to do is I am going to undo that last double crochet, okay? And then I will go ahead and redo it. So I'm going to yarn over, go into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. And I'm going to pause right there. I have 2 loops remaining on my hook. What I want to do is I will grab my color C. Let's use green tea here as my color C. And I will just put the end of my color C right up next to the color B that I'm not going to use anymore. Yarn over with my new color and pull up. Okay? I'm now ready to continue on with my new color. My old color is just hanging out. I can cut that off and just let it be, and I can carry on with my new color. So I would chain 3, and for this example, I am actually on row 21, so I would continue on with row 21. But that's how you change color. It's in the last stitch of the row before you want that color change. It's really super easy, okay? And that's it. So that's it for the right side. I think that's everything you need to know. Once you transition beyond the post-stitch section, you go back to another V-stitch section, which you know how to complete now, and you work through those rows. That will give you the entire right side of your shawl, okay? So you're starting down here. You're working up, here's your post-stitch section, here's another V-stitch section, and then you carry on. So this is the part that I want you to have complete before next week's video. Where next week's video, we're actually going to complete the body part of this section. We aren't going to work the cable bit yet. We're just going to work the body part, okay? So it's really important you have this whole part complete. If you look at this one, this whole part complete. So that way you can move on to next week's section. Hopefully this video wasn't too long for you and you learned everything you needed to learn as far as how to do a double crochet, how to do a V-stitch, how to read the pattern, how to do a post-stitch, and how to change colors. It's a lot to learn. You also did increases. We did some increases. So hopefully you're on a good start right now for this crochet along and you're having a good time. Make sure as you finish this section or you have questions about this section, you tag me on social media, hashtag MarleyBird or MarleyBirdCAL, either one. Hashtag MarleyBird or hashtag MarleyBirdCAL, and I will find it on social media, hopefully, and be able to give you a thumbs up or help you out if you're having any issues. Don't forget, there is the Facebook group. We would love to have you over there and be a part of it because it is tons of fun. There are some wonderful admin and moderators and just generally fantastic crocheters in there ready to lend support, lend a hand, and smash your like button. Okay, hopefully you're having a good time. You're enjoying this yarn. You're liking the pattern. It's not too much brain damage, and we'll have a good 4 weeks here. I'm Marley Bird, proud national spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns. This is the Abstractly Chic Shawl crochet along, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks. Everything you need to know about knitting or crochet can be found right here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel. Learn with Marley Bird. Visit youtube.com/Marley Bird.